My name is Tameika Heathman. I'm 23 years old and I'm a lifelong resident of Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm currently attending Holyoke Community College. I major in psychology. I love that place more than anything. The people that are the staff, the professors, it's just really warm, welcoming. It's a community. It's not just a place of education. It's a community. I got pregnant with my daughter at the age of 17 when I was in my senior year, and I dropped out of high school, and I eventually went back for my diploma. In high school, I was completely lost. My parents passed away when I was 13. Well, my mom had passed away when I was 13. My father passed away when I was 14 in the very beginning, actually, of my 9th grade year. So from that point on, I kind of had to rely on counselors and teachers as far as my education went. I got placed in foster care, and the social workers kind of weren't really, they were not sure exactly, or they were telling me what they were being told, and they hadn't experienced it for themselves, so they were just going by the book almost. And so through that whole high school experience, I literally had to kind of like navigate through my own way, and then with the, little bits and pieces of information that I got from a counselor or a teacher, I kind of put them all together and just kind of kept it trucking through. To be perfectly honest, I don't even remember what I wanted to be before my parents passed away. I just knew I wanted to go to college. It was always a goal. As far as what I was going to do in college, I wasn't sure. I just knew that's where I needed to be at the end of, when all was said and done with high school. When my parents passed away and I got put in foster care, that's when I started like really wanting to work with kids, because I didn't feel like anybody was advocating for me there. They were there to advocate, but they weren't actually advocating. They were, once again, going through the book. These social workers have like 19 kids to deal with, and I'm sure it's increased since I've been in foster care. So they know you by a folder almost. You're a folder on their desk. That's the way I felt. And then as far as like them guiding you to do anything, it was more or less like, well, just do this, just do that, and just do that. And not really guidance. It was just do, and because we said. And so I felt lost, completely lost. And then just having lost my parents, I didn't want to, I didn't really even want to deal with school to a certain degree. I really was kind of just there because that I knew was my duty. As a child, you go to, or a teenager, adolescent, you go to school, and then you come home, and then, you do what you're expected to do at home, and then you wake up the next morning and go to school. That's how it's always been. So I had no problem, participating, but I found that every time I hit a rock and a hard, I got stuck between a rock and a hard place, I would end up just kind of, stuck, literally. And those would be the times I would just, kind of bail out. So if you ever looked at my transcript, you would see there's A's in certain classes. In the same semester too, there's A's, but there's also D's. And the classes I got the A's in were usually the classes where the teacher would go above and beyond to help me, get the A. Whereas, if I got a D, the teacher was just like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do for you. You're not paying attention, or you're not following the material. And they weren't really aware what was really going on at home. So they're just kind of it's got to be you. It can't be me. So it was always kind of rough going through high school. I was told in high school that if you kind of keep working hard, get the good grades, get the A's, get the B's, and keep that GPA up, college kind of comes. I was literally told it was a free ride. I knew when I was being told that, that's probably not entirely true. I'm probably going to have a few loans to take out and things like that. Obviously, with no parents, I don't have, their income to help me. So I was literally told, basically, you get a free ride. And that is not entirely not true. It's not that it's not a free ride, and it's not that nobody, they're doing it on purpose. It's more or less it's just not as free as you think it is. It's more difficult of a process than I expected. I kind of thought you just fill out the paperwork and you send it in. I probably, if I could go back, I would have asked them to help teach me how to transfer into a college at all in any way. There was a career development class, and it teaches you how to get a job, but it doesn't teach you how to, apply to a college. It's those things kind of go hand in hand, don't they? Because you need college to get a job. So I mean, I felt like maybe if they could have incorporated, any teacher could have incorporated that into a class, any counselor could have taken the time to like maybe do a little assembly, a little short assembly or something like that. It would be helpful to know how to get into college, because it's often portrayed as being this, you fill out the application and they send you the envelopes and you're in or you're out. And that's really not always the case. There's way more to it, and it does require research, and it requires a lot of work on your own. It's not something that they do for you. You have to do a lot. I need a master's degree to do what I want to do, and I want to be a clinical psychologist for kids, especially kids that were in similar situations like me, who lost parents, who need guidance, just general guidance, because I always need that. And anything I could do for any kind of kid. Like, I just don't want to see kids kind of fall into the same circumstances that I did and then just feel as lost as I have. I always need somebody almost to hold my hand, and I find that that's really what keeps me going and keeps me moving forward, instead of me just staying stuck in, where I'm at. So I want to be the person that holds somebody else's hand and helps them get unstuck. The people I've met, I literally started college with no friends, like very, very few friends. And I have met such amazing people that even when the advisors and the counselors or the professors are busy, there's at least another student that can literally help you. Like the students are just as helpful as the staff. It's awesome. Literally, that's been the best thing about it, is just meeting new people and the type of people I'm meeting and the support that I get. I get so much support from my friends, and almost to the point where I get more at school than I do at home sometimes. So, I mean, it's just the community element of the college entirely. My oldest sister is probably like one of my role models. She's graduated from college. She works at an insurance company. And so and she's got a house and everything. And those are things I don't have yet. So that's like my goal. Like, okay, if I can be like my older sister, then if I can get what she has, then I'll feel at least comfortable and content. And then I have Keisha, my older sister, she's the one that brought me to HCC to visit and sit in on a class and everything. So, and she's always there for me as much as she can be. So I have a support system. It's just a really small one, but it is what it is, and support is support. What I don't get at home or within the family, or what I can't get within the family because it's not feasible for them, because it's oftentimes just not because they don't want to, it's because it's not feasible, then I get it at school. And that's why I like it, because that's why I love HCC so much, is because it balances life out, essentially, I guess. After I went back for my diploma, because I dropped out in 12th grade because I got pregnant with my daughter, and I went back a year later for my diploma. And then shortly after I got my diploma, I went to MCDI for a CNA. I worked as a CNA for maybe 3 days and realized I hated it. I didn't want to be the person doing all the work. The nurse sat at the top of the hallway and told everybody what to do. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to be that lady. I want to be the one telling everybody what to do. And so I literally would go home and I started looking up how you become a nurse. How do you become an RM? How do you get an RN? I searched high and low, and I realized there was programs, there was one at STIC, there's one at HCC. So I was like, oh, this is a community college thing, so I can this is feasible for me. It's not 4-year university. I actually did go to STIC and do a college interview shortly after I got my diploma. But it kind of wasn't what I was I don't know, I didn't feel any kind of vibe or any kind of way about it. It was more or less this is what you do, you fill out the paperwork, and then you come. And it was totally different when I made that visit with my sister to HCC. It was literally hi, oh, you're her sister. And it was very warm and welcoming. And that really was what made the difference for me. But as far as just wanting to go to college, it was literally a desire not to be the person in that lower position, almost I wanted to be in charge, I guess you could say. It sounds power hungry, but it's literally the desire to oh, you make $24, to sit at the front of the desk and tell me what to do, and I make $9 an hour, and I'm doing all the work. I like school. I love to learn. So it wasn't a big deal for me to have to go back and expand my knowledge. To me, that was the benefit of it. Oh, I'm going to go back and be a nurse. I'm going to be the nurse telling the other ones what to do. Eventually, I got to HCC, and I changed my mind. I took intro to psych and was oh, this is really, really what I want to do. Community colleges especially are probably the most understanding, as we understand you have kids, you commute, so that's always, for me, I'm glad I went to a community college. It's a great first step. It's literally, that's what opened all these doors for me. Even just the classes I've taken have shaped and molded me to be the person that I am now. Imperishable Bliss was like, it was a heck of a class. And it talks about happiness. And I went through it. That whole semester I was kind of depressed and just down. I don't even remember why, like just kind of missing my parents and things like that. But the class actually was able to change my perception on happiness. And even not being in the class anymore, I find that a lot of the concepts I learned stuck with me to this day. Like, I still think about that class and the things I've learned and the articles I've read and the stories. And then there's always the LCs that I take that are history and English combined. Those classes help you grow as far as like learning about your society and your culture and how your government works and things like that. So I think everything I've learned from each of these classes has helped me to grow individually and personally. Like, I on a whole nother level compared to where I was when I started. Like, I was probably way more immature, probably a lot more louder, you know, a lot more vulgar. Now I'm like really like I'm growing. I feel like I'm growing up. Like, ooh, I'm a grown up. I'm an adult. This is nice. And it's really like, I don't know, it's empowering almost, like to feel like, oh, I grew up a lot. And especially to be able to look back and see that change. Like, wow, I was not that person. Psi Beta is a psychology honors program, so that's perfect for me because I'm obviously a psychology major. So that means I excel in psychology. You kind of just take it as it comes, and then when you sit back, you kind of like, sometimes I sit back and think, like, I was writing my Springfield College essay, and I was going back on all my achievements, and I was trying to add them in because I was trying to be humble, I guess. And when I put them in, I kind of like read them, and I was like, oh, wow, I actually did accomplish more than I really, like I said, going through, you don't notice it. And then looking back, you're like, oh, it adds up. It really does add. It accumulates. Wow, this is great. But then again, it's also one of those bittersweet moments where I sit there and like, wow, my parents would have been so proud of me. Like, just seeing it on paper, it's like, you just wish you could just like send it. Wish I could have sent my college essay to my mom. I know they would be proud of me. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what I try to remember. But you just kind of want to have them there. You kind of want to see that tear roll down my mother's face. I know. You want to see it as I walk down get my diploma. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, it is what it is. They can't be here, and I have other people for that. And that's why HGC is so important. The people I meet, the community, that's why it's so important, because it fills in that space. Try to have some idea of what you want to do, and it helps you in the long run, because when you are going to college, you're going because you want to do something, and each college is specialized for certain things. Like, I'm finding out right now that, you know, some colleges are good for education, and some colleges are good for social work, and some colleges, so having at least a small idea, even if it's just a broad general idea of what you want to do, can kind of lead you in the direction of the college you want to go to, because you just don't go, you know, you just don't go to any college because it's a special college. You need to make sure that it's going to help you in your journey, and not, you know, because it's important. Oh, it's a prestigious college, and you want to go there, and you kind of want to know what you're about to get into. I just want to be that person that advocates for those kids that don't get advocated for, or the kids that nobody believes, because most of the time, those are the kids with actual valid claims. Kids don't want to hear what you think foster care is like. Kids don't want to hear what you think the group home is like. My little brothers are in group homes right now, and they constantly call and try to explain that things are going on, and nobody believes them. Everybody thinks they're just exaggerating, and they're too smart for their own good, and I hate hearing that, because how can you be too smart? You can't be too smart. So it's like, you know what? There needs to be somebody, even in their situation specifically, where they can say, well, you know, I think at least this needs to be looked at. I think there's some validity to this child's claim. They're not being children, you know, that just make things up and tell stories. These kids are really, they have valid claims. And a lot of the time, the social workers that deal with people in foster care or group homes or anything like that, they've never been in a foster home themselves. They've never been in a group home themselves. They only know what they see when they come in and, you know, pick up the child or meet with the child. They don't see what goes on after the doors close. And the children do, but yet nobody in in the whole system believes them because they figure, oh, well, you know, he's bipolar, so that's why he makes up things, you know, because he's just, you know, being bipolar. And I want to be that person that goes, oh, no. He's actually, yes, he's bipolar, but that doesn't make him a liar. And I was one of those kids at one point. I was one of those kids nobody believed. Everybody thought I was manipulating the social workers. Like I said, I was also called too smart for my own good. And at the end of the day, I would kind of sit there and be like, well, how can you be too smart? What are you actually saying? Are you saying that I'm smarter than you in your own field? Because how can you be too smart? And why is this being discouraged at that? Like, why is my intelligence even being discouraged? If I'm too smart, that should be a good thing. So I want to be at least somebody that's there to say, you know, I believe you, you know, to the kids. I believe you. I'm here. If there's anything I can do, I think all kids just need unconditional love, and they don't get it. They don't get it in DCF. They get conditioned love in which you behave, we will care about you. If you don't behave, then we don't have time to care. And that's not how I was raised, and I don't think any other kid should be raised that way. And if they have to be raised in an institutionalized setting, that's one thing, but it doesn't mean that it should be absent of unconditional love. People sort of like say I'm like amazing. People think I'm like, you know, you go to school full time and you have a kid and you lost your parents, and they always ask me like, how do you do it? And I never can give them like a straight answer. I have to. You know, I do everything to the best of my ability because I have to. I have to give it my all. Hi, I'm Tameika Heathman. This is me on higher education. Believe and you can succeed.